We're following new details on the North Korean crisis. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson has revealed that Washington is, quote, probing the possibility of political talks with Pyongyang for the first time ever. He revealed that the Trump administration is in direct contact with the regime and that the diplomacy isn't dead, despite repeated threats and insults on both sides. Tillerson made the comments earlier during his trip to China. For more, I want to bring in Anthony Ruggiero in Washington. He's a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense and Democracies. Anthony, so Tillerson's statement comes after North Korea's very contentious nuclear weapons test. And of course, President Trump tweeting out threats saying to totally destroy the nation. Do you think this is a change in tone, and could it represent a real strategy?
Well, we learned earlier this year that the Trump administration was talking to North Korea through what's known as the New York channel. New York, of course, is the only place that North Korea has representation through its UN mission. So we learned that the special representative had been talking to North Korea through that, and that's what led to the release of Otto Warmbier. There had been other reports that discussions continued. The intriguing thing here is that Secretary Tillerson said there are at least 3 channels and direct channels with North Korea. The question I have is how are those discussions going? Because the North Koreans have not shown any reason or desire to have real nuclear talks unless those talks result in recognizing North Korea as a nuclear weapons state.
You know, Anthony, a lot of people said the same things about Iran when President Obama's administration was trying to talk with them. What's the likelihood that the Trump administration could create its own nuclear agreement with North Korea the way the Obama administration did with Iran?
Well, on that one, I think we have to remember, too, we had years and years of very strong sanctions against Iran that gave us the leverage to provide, frankly, a better deal than the one we got. But that's probably another show. On North Korea, the issue here is that North Korea has a long history of, unfortunately, using their nuclear weapons program to get incentives from the United States and our allies and not giving up that weapons program. They have broken every single nuclear deal that they have signed. So we have to be very cautious about getting into another nuclear negotiations with North Korea that will drag out, and North Korea in the end will still have a program that threatens the United States.
You were mentioning those sanctions. Tillerson said that he believes China has now become alarmed about North Korea's missile tests and nuclear program. We've heard mixed reports on whether they're enforcing sanctions against the country. Do you think China will step up and take more action?
Well, I think we should give them some credit that they are doing things that go beyond the resolution. They're clearly telling their banks to stop interactions with North Koreans. They are looking at stopping joint ventures, which of course is restricted by the resolutions, but they need to go further. We know that there are Chinese nationals that are helping North Korea in sanctions evasion, and the issue here is that I don't believe that China will go to that level unless they're prompted to do so. And the way that they will be prompted is by strong U.S. sanctions, which, as you noted, the Iran examples are relevant here. We did the exact same thing with Europe, who was unwilling to put the level of pressure necessary on Iran, and the United States went after European banks, and then that changed the tide.
Yeah, it's a very good example. How does President Trump do the fact that he has this heated exchange constantly with Kim Jong-un? How do you think that's going to impact the chance of diplomacy?
Well, I think both sides are trying to deter the other side from doing something, right? So you have to telegraph to the adversary that if you do something, this is what you're going to get in return. And I think at this point, both sides understand what that level of deterrence is. And frankly, we're going too far. We don't need to continue the name calling. We don't need to continue down this road. I think the North Koreans understand what the retaliation will be if they attack the U.S. or U.S. allies. And frankly, we understand if we initiate a preemptive or preventative strike against North Korea, what that will bring. So I think both sides understand that, and perhaps the best part about the fact that we have 3 channels with North Korea is that hopefully that will lead to stopping an incident of miscalculation, so that both sides could pick up the phone and say, hey, is this the start of a war, or are you just doing another military exercise? That's very important from today's news.
Certainly an option no one wants. Anthony Ruggiero, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.